12 assassins struck at once. She stretched lazily and murmured, "Is this practice for rookies?" The alien killers, masters of silence and deadly craft, had crossed star systems with a single order: remove only the most dangerous foes of their empire. Tonight, their target was a human, Captain Arya Vale. She stood alone inside the wreckage of a derelict mining hangar on Venus' moon, surrounded by broken shadows and steel skeletons. Yet her posture carried the ease of someone who had been waiting for such an ambush. Blades hissed, rifles spat, claws sliced through the gloom. Arya crouched low, rolled across the coal-black floor, and rose with her pulse pistols blazing. 2 assassins collapsed before the others even blinked, sparks flashing across their armor. She wasn't just defending herself, she was dismantling the attack, observing their rhythm like a teacher grading poor students. They believed they were the predators. But Arya had battled horrors far worse during Earth's desperate wars. Her boots rang on the rusted scaffolds as she dashed sideways, catching a blade with her gauntlet, twisting it until its wielder screamed, then driving her elbow into its faceplate hard enough to shatter bone beneath alien skin. She tossed the limp body aside and taunted, "If this is your finest, your empire's already crumbling." Their commander rasped in a tongue of static and knives, signaling a new formation. The killers surged together, encircling her with plasma edges glowing in the dark. Arya smirked, sweat dripping down her brow, and triggered the magnetic harness on her back. Twin drones unfurled with a low whir, projecting hard light shields that soaked up the first assault. She slipped between 2 assassins, letting them slam into each other, then launched her grappler to the ceiling. The cable yanked her upward in a blur. She released mid-swing, spinning like a comet, and slammed both boots into another attacker's chest, catapulting it into a support beam that snapped in half. Sparks cascaded, metal screamed, and the fight dissolved into chaos. Still, Arya's tone was cold, slicing their morale sharper than any blade. Was this really just the warm-up? For centuries, Zyra assassins had been nightmares etched into 10 star systems, their victories carved on the bones of conquered worlds. But humans were not bred in cages. They had evolved in fire, adapting to disasters, forging weapons faster than enemies could study them. Arya embodied that truth. Her comm toggled open to the squad listening from orbit above. "Tell command," she said between strikes. "Their legends are snapping like dry twigs." Another hiss. Another flash. She ducked low, sweeping one assassin's leg and firing point blank into its chest. She didn't pause to confirm the kill. Her body was already pivoting, sliding across oil-slick panels, turning the battlefield into her ally. The assassins moved like shadows. Arya moved like lightning, unpredictable, searing, forcing them to adapt beyond their limits. The more they shifted, the more errors bled through. A blade barely missed her head. She seized the momentum, vaulting over its wielder, dragging the weapon across another's throat in a brutal reversal. Another lunged with claws extended. Arya ripped a cable from the floor, whipping its electrified tip across its armor, frying circuits and flesh in a single crack. The combat pulsed like a symphony of metal and shrieks. But to Arya, it was only the introduction. Her pulse pistols overheated, glowing molten red. She dropped them without hesitation, snatched a plasma blade from a fallen foe, and spun it with a testing flourish before driving it into the nearest chest. The others hissed louder, desperation rising, and she felt the moment their pride fractured. She pressed the brake, charging with human ferocity, carving at impossible angles, wielding creativity like a sharper weapon than steel. She recalled Earth's generals once doubting if humans could truly stand against the Empire's best hunters. But her answer was clear. Standing wasn't enough. Humanity could dominate. She booted another assassin into the wall so hard the hangar shook, dust raining from the ceiling as lights flickered. Her drones darted, unleashing microbursts of energy that staggered their targets, fracturing the enemy's unity. Arya didn't fight as one soldier. She fought as the living sum of humanity's defiance. Every strike echoed Earth's refusal to kneel. Her mocking voice rang out a third time, calm and merciless. Was this still just a warm-up? The assassins snarled, pride unraveling into rage. One primed an explosive charge on its wrist. Arya's eyes narrowed. She lunged, ramming her shoulder into its chest, ripping the charge free before detonation, and hurled it into the remaining cluster. The blast thundered across the hangar, bodies hurled like broken dolls. Smoke swallowed the air, alarms screamed, but Arya strode through the haze with the patience of someone still waiting for the real fight to begin. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing at the trembling survivors who had once been feared as elites. Her voice dropped low, just enough for her comms to catch. They must have forgotten, humans don't warm up. We finish. The smoke curled in ghostly swirls around shattered beams and broken bodies. But Captain Arya Vale stood untouched at the center, her breathing steady, the measured rhythm of a predator who hadn't even lost pace. The assassins had come. In cloaked splendor, paraded as the crown jewel of the Zyroth Empire's death machine. Yet now their armor was strewn across the shattered hangar like broken. Still, Arya knew better than to assume this was their full hand. Killers were never sent alone. They were the blades before the hammer's strike. She tapped her wrist console, overlaying the hangar with scanning grids. Signatures lit up beyond the walls. Painting squads layered in the tunnels. Reinforcements tightening the noose. There it is, she murmured, not to herself but to the enemy. Her words carried through the still open comm. The warm-up is finished. Static filled her ear as command cut in, voices sharp, demanding extraction coordinates. Arya muted them with a single word: negative. She wasn't going to retreat, not when she could carve a warning straight into the Empire's skull. She strode forward, past twitching corpses, and slammed her boot into the blast door controls. Sparks leapt, the panel died, and with a single heave she pried the door halfway open. Beyond stretched a tunnel of steel, lit by plasma torches, ranks of armored shapes waiting like hunters for prey. They expected a broken victim to crawl through. Instead they saw her streaked with soot, splattered in blood, not her own, standing tall with a stolen alien blade in one hand and drones whirring at her back. The front line screeched and charged, but Arya was already in motion, springing into the tunnel like a storm. Unleashed, the confined space turned the battle into a riot of sparks and echoes. Plasma blades crashed. Her drones struck. Beams ricocheted against the walls. Each time she gave ground, it was only to draw them tighter before cutting them to ribbons. These assassins had been raised for duels, relying on precision and fear. But Arya bent every strength into weakness. She fought with reckless cleverness, ricocheting shots into blind angles, dragging bodies into shields, ripping weapons free and turning them back on their owners. Each move was improvised yet brutal, like she'd written the rulebook they failed to read. Behind her, the hangar groaned, collapsing from the earlier blast. Dust poured into the tunnel, choking vision. Arya smiled. Humans thrived in chaos, in disorder, the imperfect, and so did she. One assassin lunged with twin blades, their edges glowing violet, able to shear through armor. Arya slipped aside, letting them scrape her shoulder guard, then wrenched hard, jamming the alien into the wall. His blade caught, stuck. For an instant, that heartbeat was enough for her drone to lance a beam through its spine. She kicked the corpse down the passage like a battering ram, toppling three more. Your empire spent centuries building killers, she mocked, her voice echoing in steel. We spent the same centuries mastering survival. Guess which endures? They howled in alien fury, but their discipline frayed. The harder they pressed, the more scattered they became. And Arya punished every crack. Her calm Pinged again, her squad in orbit there. Tones shifting from fear to awe. Weren't watching a captain survive. Were watching a human redefine combat in real time. The assassins felt it too, their pride leaking into dread as they realized this was no execution but a frantic attempt to cage a wildfire. Still they hurled forward, deploying their own drones, spider-like machines crawling the walls, spitting arcs of energy. Arya's eyes hardened. She spun the stolen plasma blade, then hurled it dead center into the lead drone's core. The blast ripped a hole in the tunnel wall, pipes erupting with steam in a deafening roar. Seized the opening, diving into the fog and vanishing from sight. The assassins hesitated, scanning the haze. She was already behind them, grappling the ceiling with her wrist launcher, dropping like a phantom. Her boots crushed a commander's skull into the floor. Before the others reacted, she fired into the vent, triggering a chain eruption. Superheated steam gushed down the tunnel, searing armor, scattering their ranks. Arya wove through the chaos, striking fast, every kill deliberate, every blow a nail in their legend's coffin. Didn't want them all dead. She wanted survivors, witnesses to crawl home with. The story of what one human had done. When at last the steam cleared, the corridor was littered with smoldering bodies, armor fused into flesh. Few staggered back, broken. Arya let them flee. She wiped soot from her brow, reclaimed her blade, and walked deeper into the colony. This wasn't over. The assassins were only the edge of something greater, a probe to see if humans would shatter. She intended to answer with fire. Somewhere below her, scans marked a core facility pulsing with alien energy, and she planned to cut it out with the same precision she'd used on their hunters. Above, her squad called again, reverent, asking if she needed backup now. Paused, adjusted her grip on the blade, and answered with the same steady tone that carried her through the fight. No. If this is still your warm-up, she said, then let's see the main event. And with that she slipped into the tunnels alone. Shadow of Earth pressing toward the Empire's core test, ready to etch the next chapter with steel and defiance. The passages wound downward like veins through ancient stone, and Captain Arya Vale advanced with the patience of a huntress who knew the kill was hers to control. The air thickened with reactor heat, alien machinery thrumming beneath her boots. Glyphs glowed faintly on the walls, and with every step the vibration grew stronger. Her sensors confirmed it. Command node pulsing with power, the heartbeat of the assassin's presence. The Empire hadn't just sent killers, it had buried a fortress beneath the ruins. The survivors of her ambush had already retreated, fleeing down branching tunnels. To regroup, she let them go. Fear was the weapon she wanted them to carry back. The real prize was ahead. Her drones swept the corridors, mapping turrets and patrols. But Arya moved faster than defenses could adjust. Plasma fire spat. Catwalks caved. But she vaulted, rolled, destroyed, and left wreckage behind. By the time she reached the core chamber, alarms shrieked across every channel. The doors split open, and the room's vastness staggered even her. A cavernous hall rose above, dominated by a reactor throbbing red with energy. Ranks of heavy infantry stood guard, giants bristling with weapons, not assassins but soldiers. At their head loomed the overseer, armored in metallic spines, its voice booming in a guttural tongue that the human would not pass. Arya exhaled once, calm and unshaken, before lifting her blade. Then I'll carve a way through you. The infantry surged like a tidal wave. Weapons flared, searing the chamber with light. Arya sprinted forward, drones casting shields as she wove between pillars. She vaulted high, ricocheting off walls, dropping into their midst like a storm. Blades clashed, rifles cracked, and giants fell. For every strike she made, 3 more rained down, but she adapted. Humans fought with invention born of necessity. Arya turned every fragment of terrain into a tool, sparking conduits, crumbling tiles, even the cadence of their charge. Her drones pulsed blinding flashes, breaking formations, and hesitation spread like disease. She pressed harder, splitting their line. Then the overseer entered. His presence shook the chamber. Claws shimmered into plasma blades, armor rippled with shields, each strike powerful enough to split stone. It roared, lunging with speed belying its bulk. For the first time, Arya staggered. Steel met steel, sparks raining her arms, buckling under the impact. Blow after blow hammered her back. She gave ground, but only to draw it closer to the reactor's volatile conduits. Pain lanced her ribs as she was hurled against the wall. Armor split. Rose anyway, spitting blood, refusing to yield. "You think strength is enough," she shouted. Through the din, strength without imagination is just dead weight. With one feint, she lured the overseer into a downward strike. At the last heartbeat, she pivoted aside. Its claws pierced the reactor's casing. Energy screamed, light flared. Arya seized the moment, driving her blade deep into the exposed core. The chamber ignited in blinding fury, a shockwave tearing outward. Systems cascaded into overload. The overseer stumbled, shrieking rage, but Arya vaulted onto its back, wrenching its skull aside, and plunging her blade straight through its earth. The giant collapsed with thunder, lifeless before it struck the floor. The reactor ruptured, energy spilling like molten fire. Arya sprinted for the exit as alarms howled, tunnels buckling and stone splitting. She grappled through collapsing shafts, lungs burning, until she burst into night sky. Behind her, the colony erupted, fire plumes painting the stars as the command node detonated in a cascade of light. Arya stood on the ridge, battered, bleeding, alive. Her calm crackled with her squad's cheers, voices split between awe and pride. She looked once at the inferno, then said simply, "Tell Earth the assassins weren't enough. Tell them humanity is still here." Above, her squad ship descended, flood lights piercing smoke. But Arya's gaze remained on the horizon. Tonight the Empire had learned a truth no terror could silence. That humanity not only endured their finest blades but broke them dull. The assassins had come as legends. They left as broken stories. And Arya Vale, one human soldier, had carved fire across the stars. Earth was no prey. It was a force. And this war was only